Hello and welcome to another Ecom Ops podcast. Today it's a very special day for me, to be honest, because I'm interviewing Bartek from the PHH Group, which is a marketplace provider with over 3,000 vendors on their marketplaces. So they have several marketplaces across the Baltics. And welcome to the show, Bartek. Really great to have you.
Hi, Norbert. Thank you for the invitation and nice to meet all of our guests as well.
Yeah, cool. It's really, really cool because, my topic here in the podcast is e-commerce growth, e-commerce operations. And one very important thing is marketplaces, to sell on marketplaces, how to synchronize with marketplaces. And you actually have 4 of them across the Baltics. It's Pigu, it's 220, it's
Exactly.
Kaup24, and it's HobbyHall in Finland. So 4 marketplaces all together in one group, 3,000 sellers. Tell me a bit more about that and tell me a bit more about your story.
Yeah, so exactly. So actually, I'm happy to build up on the whole marketplace story, how it ended up being, 4 different marketplaces for one buyer, but actually one platform for the seller. So the history is, I would say, it's rather quite simple. As back a couple of years ago, there's been scattered of a few e-commerce companies, like the leading companies in all of the Baltic countries and Finland, and simply over time, private equity investors started simply buying those brands and building and building on top of that the marketplace. So actually, Pigu was one of the actually the biggest and the first e-commerce that was bought. Then 220.lv joined, Kaup24 and HobbyHall. And actually, the marketplace was launched in 2020. So we're just like 5 years old. So not, now our company history is not that yet long. And last year, we also launched Finland. So that's about the story. And which is really worth mentioning is that, the marketplace is growing like rapidly, like 60% year over year, which is,
Wow.
I would say, crazy compared to other markets. So our customers are really, really hungry.
Absolutely crazy. And the question is, what does Amazon say to that? No, I'm just thinking, how do you compare to Amazon? Why do you think is not such a presence in your regions?
Yeah. So the thing is, with as you also, and probably our listeners know, I know Amazon has a really particular strategy, of quietly, slowly joining different markets and then building scale over the time. However, it's really simple when you have one big country, one regulation, one language, but Baltics and Finland, that's not the story. You have four different markets. Each have different languages, different rules, and also the consumer authorities are pretty strict. And on the other hand, it's too much hassle for Amazon to launch all of these markets because it will take simply too much time and too many complexities to resolve. Like even a simple comparison, like in Baltics, there is no even Google Shopping, right? So, if there's no Google Shopping, right? So imagine that's how complex it would be for Amazon to enter all of these markets. And then also additional point is like, the company which we are, right, has a really well established position. And it will be really difficult for Amazon, to quickly win over the customers that know, our brands, choose us as a first shopping location. And we have like 95% in some markets of the brand recognition. So, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's really unlikely, at least for the couple of next year. So I don't think that's, as of today, we will be, threatened by any major player.
That's really interesting, and that is a huge opportunity for sellers, because I'm aware that you are not only allowing local sellers to sell, but you also allow and you want to have international sellers that sell on your marketplace. Can you tell me a bit more about those opportunities?
Yes, exactly. So once the marketplace was launched, a few vendors that back then were working with us as simply suppliers decided to switch to the marketplace model and act as independent sellers. So this is how majority of the current international sellers are present on our marketplace. But honestly, I would say this year we are eventually opening our gates, because back then we did not have proper infrastructure simply to support those sellers. Like there was no API. Like the API was just like finalized this year. There were no like logistic solution that could support the international sellers to handle the deliveries and returns in our region. So right now, it's not yet perfect. I need to admit, but at least it can be operationally used, and we have already dozens or actually hundreds of sellers from outside of our region, especially from Poland, working with us on a daily basis.
That's awesome. So, as an international seller, once the integrations are up and running, it will be a nice try to start selling in the Baltics on marketplaces that maybe are not known by the sellers itself, but in the region they are well established and they have more reach actually than Amazon. Is that true?
Yes, I mean, well, exactly. Like when it comes to the traffic, like all of our websites, at least in Baltics, are ranked number one. In Finland, we are not yet on the podium, but we are close to. So essentially, when it comes to the whole potential, like there's no other simply marketplace as of today that's well established in the region, except simply for us.
Mm-hmm. What challenges have you seen that sellers are facing when they expand on marketplaces in general, or especially to the region?
In general, I would say we need to think from the seller perspective, right? Before I start selling on the marketplace, there are a couple of things I need to resolve, right? So the first thing, it's just starting from the legal requirements, right? Certain marketplaces require sellers to have, for instance, local VAT numbers to store the goods in the same country. I mean, fortunately, it's not applicable to us. So I would say first you need to resolve the legal stuff and meet all the legal requirements. Then you need to make sure that your products will simply fit the marketplace system. So we need to provide necessary translations. I mean, for us, it's particularly challenging as we have like 5 languages, right? That the seller needs to cover. But I believe with the access to AI solutions, it's not that difficult anymore. So once you solve legal, once you solve products, and you have some integration, there are, let's say, 2 last things that you need to take care of. So this logistics, right? There are not that many international couriers that provide all the convenient delivery options for the customers in the region that the seller would like to sell. And you also need to take care of the returns. And the last part is, okay, I have everything sold out, but what happens when the customers needs to will speak to me, right? I do not speak, for instance, as a, let's say, Polish seller, I do not speak Spanish if I would like to sell on some Spanish marketplace or French, right? You need to cover for that. So in this part, I would say we are quite unique because we do provide the customer support in all the local languages. So actually the sellers on our marketplace do not need to handle the customer support because we do it for them. And, sometimes when we cannot resolve the issues, we just simply reach out to sellers. But by default, the sellers are not obliged to do so. But on other marketplaces, that's usually the drill that you need to speak to their customers. Well, usually it happens like through some translators, which can be also enough. But if the customer calls, yeah, that might be a little bit difficult to handle. So I would
That's
say
true.
these 4 things, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I find it very special that you provide the support and then you just ask back for the customer if you need something from to the seller if you need something from the seller. But that's, I think, a very unique selling point as well for your sellers, that you help them to support their customers actually.
Yes, exactly. Like back then, we learned that certain, even though people speak English, it's not, let's say, they feel much more comfortable. And also from the marketplace perspective, you need to take the proper care of the customers, right? Once you lose a customer or make any mistakes, it's really difficult to win them back. And it actually applies to any marketplace and any D2C or e-commerce business, right? Once you lose a customer, you need to spend tremendous money on winning them back. So it's better simply not to make those mistakes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's come to a cool thing that everyone else loves here at the podcast. It's the mistakes and the success stories. Are there any common mistakes that you frequently see when it comes to entering a new market or starting on marketplace strategy?
Let me actually think about this, because there are so many things that that actually happen. So, well, one of the common issues is sellers wants to test the new market, right? So usually that's I would say that's one of the major mistakes, because when someone considers something a test, they do not put all the efforts and they hard to it, right? So it means, yeah, they may not, let's say, fully translate the products. They will not go with the full assortment. And once the time passes, no sales will come, and they will say, "Oh shit, that was a crappy market. It wasn't worth our time." But in the end, the problem was that they were thinking it as of the test. So first, you actually need to decide whether you are going all in or actually nothing, because the partially working solutions won't probably make you any good. And then another thing is, you need to do a proper market research before you join the particular region. Like, for instance, I can provide an example for a couple of sellers that wanted to join Finnish marketplace, and simply they haven't done the proper research and applied the same prices as for all the other markets, which in the result turned out to be relatively cheap to what other sellers on the marketplace were offering, and simply sounded really suspicious for the end consumers, right? So if the seller had known previously that, hey, I should actually revamp the strategy, revamp the prices, then the customers would have perceived the offer completely different. And it actually applies both ways. So either too high or too low prices. You need to fit within a specific range, actually. And also, well, like, it's difficult, right, to launch new markets. So not only talking about marketplaces, but also in general about e-commerce businesses. Like, sellers sometimes, let's say, misalign on the timelines, right? Like, there are, if you are selling Christmas trees, probably you shouldn't start selling in summer, right? I mean, this is like a really obvious example. But what I'm trying to say is that each country has its own specific festivals, right? So you need to be aware of these and utilize this to your advantage, right? So, I mean, another example, in Finland, there is something called like a summer solstice, which makes simply people shop a lot of online when it comes to like DIY things, home repair. Simply people are going back to the villages, building the saunas, the houses. So it's really worth that you as a seller utilize this opportunity to advertise the products that they actually need. And, well, the last thing is actually the regulations, right? If you start selling in a country for instance, let's say supplements, some baby food without proper regulations, because, marketplaces may help you with it, that actually may find that you do not have proper documentation or proper marks, but it's actually you as a seller responsibility to comply with the local rules. And then it may happen that, your product was tremendous. Like it went viral, you had a lot of sales, but it turns out that it's not compliant with the local law. Then you are in big trouble. So all in all, I would say people don't go on with their full hearts and efforts. They do not do the proper market research and do not comply with the local regulations. So these would be
Great
the most
answers.
frequent.
Yeah, great answers, and I really like most the thing with the open heart and full efforts in putting energy in going to a new market, because this applies to every kind of business decision, actually. Even when you start running a new store, online store, and you put not all efforts into that store, it will simply not work. Yeah. You cannot just try something out, because if you just try it out, it will massively fail. You just need to put all energy in and see if it works. This should be a trial. You can give that a face, but that energy must be 100% or even 120% to fully achieve what you want to test out.
Exactly.
Success stories. I mean, 3,000 sellers. Gosh, you must have seen something. What can you tell us?
Yeah. So, well, when it comes to the success stories, I would say the first thing, you need to be aware that majority of the local sellers do not have that, let's say, wide and deep assortment, which means also that their potential is not that big as for the international sellers. So when it comes to these international sellers, we've had a couple of them. For instance, like if I joined last year, that went from simply zero to like 60, 70K monthly euro GMV in like 2-3 months. And these sellers were in a few categories, like toys, mobile accessories, phones, other electronics. This is when it comes to the general international sellers. But also, we have a few interesting sellers locally. For instance, once the marketplace started, there were a couple of suppliers that I told you but worked with us as suppliers, and then decided to become simply B2C businesses due to the opportunity that emerged via our marketplace. And in a few years, those companies that mainly acted as the wholesalers and supplying, those big chains with the assortment, over a couple of years, from several hundred products selling B2C to the customers, today they're selling more than 25,000. And actually, the B2C part is already bigger than their B2B part. So,
Wow.
which means that like the whole business model simply turned off. I would be happy to share the name of the company, but unfortunately, I'm bound by certain documents. But no,
yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Just let the people try out themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just kidding. That's cool. It's really cool. I mean, when we are talking about success stories, about successful e-commerce stores, is there some key factors that maybe differentiate successful e-commerce businesses from those that struggle?
But in my opinion, there are a couple of things that differentiate the successful sellers, successful e-commerce businesses from not the successful ones. So, as we already said, these like putting your whole heart into whatever business endeavor you have is really important, and this is definitely what successful sellers do. But when it comes to the perception and how they work with the customers, it's like they're really customer centric. They go beyond when it comes to the customer support. They do some extra things that are not expected of them. They really take care not only for the acquisition of the customer, which is a lot of the costs, and majority of the businesses, okay, we've acquired the customer, they bought something, off you go, maybe you'll come back, right? But those successful businesses try to make those their customers, loyal customers, retain them by offering some personalized promotions, asking and coming back with some special offers, remembering that, okay, this buyer bought the product a couple of months ago. Well, probably the product is already, run out, in case it was some product that's, wears off after a certain period of time. They come back to them exactly at the time when the customer needs them. So I would say this is simply the difference. So putting all your heart and taking care of the customer when they need it, and with the products they need it.
That's nice said, and it's it has quite some truth in it, because this is something that we often see as well in the e-commerce branch, that a lot of stores are just selling, not taking care for the customers. When you want to reach someone from the support, it's hard to reach someone. Some of them, I mean, it's especially here, it's even an obligation to have the phone number in the impress, here in Austria at least. But you see a lot of stores that hide themselves for being contacted. There is maybe a contact form, but you always have the bad mind that, when I try the contact form, I will not get an answer.
Exactly.
And I think that's something. If you have the impression already that you won't get an answer, then you have a bad feeling. And I think this is where we as online sellers can completely be different, to give the impression we are here. You can talk to us, you can contact us, a public chat that is not always just a chatbot. So, I mean, chatbots are great and they can really help. But to be honest, as soon as I start typing with a chatbot and it's not answering accurately, or it's navigating me from A to B, then to C, and maybe to D without the possibility to get in a human touch, then I'm frustrated. And I think the more personalization we can give and the more engagement with the customer we can give, the better it is for the entire feeling of buying in that specific store, or feeling as a real customer, not a number.
Exactly. And they do not, those really successful sellers, they do not send all those spammy emails that you don't even want to look at, and you just press delete, right? So that's and when you found some product which was the same product was cheaper, they offer you a reimbursement, right? So this is actually what it means going beyond.
And I think the good example on that is really Amazon. I mean, when you have a problem, you try to get in touch with Amazon, and at least here in the German Amazon market, the guys you chat with are maybe not perfectly speaking German or writing German, and they are still not perfectly understanding your problem sometimes, but there is at least a human answering to you. Of course, you need to come over the chatbot and you get offered some links, but that's not hard to really get in touch then. And when you have a problem and you describe the problem, it was understood, you always get a solution. I never had the problem that I couldn't get a solution from Amazon. It's not always the solution to get a refund. It's not always that solution, but they offer solutions. And that's, I think, that makes an outstanding customer experience. And I think that's important. If you sell on your store, if you sell on a marketplace, if you sell on a new marketplace, if you reach a new market, there are always people acting with people. And that's the cool.
This gives you trust.
Trends. Yeah, trust, exactly. Yeah. And e-commerce trends that you are foreseeing in the next couple of months or years, what is coming to us?
So, well, definitely in my like as we already touched upon certain of these topics, like the chatbots and all this stuff. So definitely the like the adoption of the AI would be, in my opinion, will have tremendous impact on the how the e-commerce works. It's just not only about going to the chatbot and answering all the questions, but actually the chatbot being your personal assistant. As you go to the offline store, right, you have always a person that can ask, provide you with some insights. Currently, it's not yet that widespread on the online shops, but it's growing, right? So you have your own personal assistant online that you can chat to, you can talk to, and also like with the wider access to the AI powered solutions. I see like a hyper personalization as a next game changer. So essentially, when I end up on a website, I will see completely different layout, completely different product. Even when I'm seeing the website for the first time, then for instance, you, Norbert, would see, right? For instance, I don't know, I like pink t-shirts, right? And you like brown jackets, right? So I won't be shown the products that you are shown. And I'll also maybe even get a special price, even though the shop may don't know that I made any purchase there. So then, in my opinion, is also like a couple of two extra trends is that definitely the penetration of the Chinese companies such as Shein, Temu, and alike will keep on growing. Because right now there are still a lot of people that have not been convinced yet to trust those brands. Also, especially, for instance, in our region, it's not that widespread. People are much more hesitant, right? So this is going to change for sure. And I believe we will have a little bit of like differentiation, right? People will go on the, let's say, Chinese supplied marketplaces to shop for different goods, and for the local marketplaces to find different goods. Like probably over the time, I presume that more and more products will appear on this part. So the local sellers will feel a little bit of pressure. And the last thing is like what I believe, maybe not over in like 1-2 years, but like maybe 5-6, is simply even more, let's say, evolution of the social commerce. It's not only like, you can buy things on TikTok, Instagram, but even, watching the TV series, playing online games. You actually everywhere will have have a pop-up or like, one click button. Hey, I really like this product that my favorite character was wearing. I would like to buy it, right? I would like to buy this, I don't know, home accessory that's it's there back there in the background of this scene, right? So I think that's this is probably not 1-2 years, but I really believe that at some point we will be there where actually we will be able to buy products everywhere. And it's simply due to the fact that the sellers should be everywhere when the buyers are, right? So it may sound a little bit scary, but in my opinion, I would love to see the products exactly when I need them, right?
I must say that I love the idea of seeing a movie and purchasing those products that you see on the screen. It's like in a sci-fi movie where we have maybe seen that already, and it's super. Yeah, I mean, you often purchase presents based on that. Like I have for my brother-in-law, we presented him the cup of 2.5 Men that he's always using. And that's our typical concepts and ideas that could be done quite easily, especially when you're streaming. And that's very interesting. I like that idea of a future e-commerce, and it's again nothing else but a marketplace that
Exactly.
needs to be put in the topic. Yeah,
exactly.
Very interesting. How important do you think is integration and automation for e-commerce?
Well, as of today, I would say it's almost it's impossible to actually keep up with all these sales channels and opportunities without like the automation in the background. Like right now, as we mentioned, the seller needs to be everywhere where the customers are, right? And the customers are, in Poland, Germany, Baltics, Finland. And, you will need to have a tremendous workforce in your office to make sure that everything works correctly. Or you can just once set up everything with an integrator and then focus on sales. And this was actually one of the very important, let's say, growth blockers for us, because without API you cannot work with any integrations. And whenever we spoke to any big international sellers, they said, okay, you don't have this or that integration. Well, we need to wait, because no one will even though you might be even as big as Amazon, they still wouldn't join, because they know how much hassle it is for running manual processes. And once they switch, they don't want to come back to these old processes.
Absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely true. I'm and as SyncSpider, we do often talk to marketplaces, and this is always the same. That if they don't have integrations, it's hard for them to win vendors. I think that's one of those things a marketplace really must have, is some kind of integrations to automate listing the products, updating stock and price, getting the orders, fulfilling the orders. These are the basic things. And once you have that, it's much more easy to onboard a vendor than if you don't have any kind of integrations. And so we did also, as SyncSpider, the integration to your entire group, which is cool. I love that. Thank you so much. And it's really, really cool that it's possible, and that vendors can absolutely start using that to get the products listed also on your marketplace. Last question for today. Who has taught you the most about e-commerce in your career?
That's a really good question. And I would love to have a simple one, but unfortunately there is no. Because I don't want to give like too much credit to one particular person, because there were so many of them throughout my whole journey. So I would say the first, let's say, environment, it was once I was working in the venture capital industry, actually investing in the startups. Some of them were also e-commerce businesses, but majority of them were providing some services, not only integrations, but a variety of services that help the simple e-commerce industry resolve certain problems. So I would say this was like the first part. So a little bit from the technological perspective, seeing those challenges and how the technology can resolve this. Then actually I'll also talk to a couple of people that run the e-commerce businesses. Just let's say in my closer inner circle, that I recall when they were like selling a few products, a day, a week. And then at some point they reach a scale of having like 4,000 orders a day, which, it was a couple of years ago back. And actually they didn't have any integration at that point. So they were just like employing as crazy people. And, I recall when first there was like, the couriers were just driving with the small buses for the packages, and then at some point, actually, a whole big lorries needed to try to simply pick up the daily packages, because there's so many of them. And the last thing, I believe, it's actually two last things. It's once I actually was working in Amazon in one of the fulfillment centers. I actually could see how things are working in the backend, that's not visible to the eye. In some places, we were like shipping, like in the biggest day, we like ship 1 million products in a day, like 125 trucks departing from the fulfillment center, a couple of thousand of people working on the shift. It was crazy. And then in the end, it also gives you a little bit, not a little bit, but simply humility, how difficult it is and how many people are actually working to make sure that this package that someone ordered in another country will reach the customer on time. And obviously, as of today, I'm also still learning and seeing a lot of from our current sellers how what kind of challenges they face. So I would say, each of the parts of my life played a certain part and helped me build this expertise, which is still, I would say, not even 1% of what's available.
What a nice answer. I really like that answer. Thank you so much. And yeah, guys, I mean, that's it for today. If you liked it, please come back for the next episode. Give us a like, give us a review, ring the bell, whatever you need to do to not forget us. And Bart, thank you so much for your time. It really was a pleasure learning more about your group, about the marketplaces that you serve, about the thoughts that you have on e-commerce. And guys, if you want to test it out, we will link the contacts in the blog post for this episode. So if you want to give the PHH Group a try and sell on the Baltics, on Finland, and try to get your products over there, just contact Bart or his team, someone from the team, and see if there is a possibility or an option. With SyncSpot, actually, you have the possibility to connect your store, send the products over, get the orders back. And of course, with our AI integration, we could probably do the translation as well, because this is one of those requirements. So just check it out, and good luck. Have a wonderful day. And that's it for this episode of the Ecom Ops podcast. If you enjoyed listening and would like us find and interview more e-commerce operations experts, please search for Ecom Ops podcast in your favorite podcast listening app, and then subscribe, rate, and review. Until next time.